but it wasn't killing us then.
Now, who's that? Who's they?
You know who they is. This is how we survived. This is what they gave us. We had to eat this. We had to eat the pig feet. We had to eat the pig tail. We had to eat the neck bone. They wouldn't eat it. We fixed it. We seasoned it. It's good. Now they like it too.
God made Adam and Eve came from his ribs. So a woman is good, so the woman came from the ribs, so the ribs ought to be good too, you know? That's the way I see it.
It's comfort food. You know, you eat it and it makes you feel better. It must release endorphins or something that just make you feel all right.
Everything in moderation. I can eat this, but in moderation.
I don't eat anything that fart, doo-doo, pee, or screw. Nah, there's no conversation about that.
I have this concept called plate police, which I can't stand. I can't stand somebody who look in your plate and tell you what you should do. We're all trying to reach our joy, our peace, our heaven, whatever. You eat what you please. You got your own route. I take mine.
One thing I remember from growing up, it could be an old milk container or an old can, and there would be a whole bunch of grease poured all the way to the top.
And what did you do with that grease?
Reuse that grease.
You used it again.
And again. But that was just what we did.
Remember the bacon?
The bacon.
We fried the bacon in the morning, and we drained the grease and put it in a can. Yep. And we didn't put it in the refrigerator.
It sat
on the stove or under the cabinet, and we kept that grease until it was time to do something else with it, like put it in the greens, you know, because it had the flavor, and it never spoiled. Isn't that amazing?
It is. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Is that healthy? I mean, like, you know,
I would think that that's not healthy. I haven't done that in years. Now you get in medicine, you hear about the heart disease and the strokes and heart attacks. Like, wow, I can't believe I was doing that. But at the time, that was what Mama taught us to do, and that's, you know, the tradition was passed down.
Well, I was taught. You know, it goes from one generation to the next, so you follow suit.
My whole family has suffered from bad eating. They've all suffered from eating pig's feet and chitlin and frying everything and putting hot sauce on everything and putting an extra bag of sugar in the Kool-Aid. I mean, everything that you could imagine I'm part of, I come from that tradition. I still roll like that sometimes. I know better, and it's still hard for me not. I keep hot sauce in my bag. Literally, I'm not even exaggerating. I keep a bag.
You got some hot sauce?
I keep hot sauce in my bag, man, just in case some fried chicken pops off. I love it. You know what I mean? That's how I live, but I have to make a choice and say, okay, today I have to make a different choice because yesterday I made a bad choice. And I try to regulate myself, but it's a work in progress. It's like somebody who's trying to get off of like crack or heroin or something. I'm trying to wean myself off fried chicken, man.
Soul food restaurants don't turn me on. What turns me on today is a nice salad, you know, with different kinds of lettuce and roughage that will clean out your colon. The different kinds of the onions and the beets and the carrots and things of that nature that make things healthy. I like healthy living today.
No fried chicken?
Well,
no fried chicken.
Hard giving up that fried chicken.
I feel you. It was hard for me to cut back on fried chicken too, until I learned about the health risks associated with some of my favorite comfort foods.
When you fry foods, you can sometimes increase the levels of carcinogens, the things that can cause cancer. A lot of times the way the food is given to you, it's like large amounts, especially of the starches. So if you get a lot of sweet potatoes and yams or sweets, all those carbohydrates in too high amounts can be a problem for you.
I don't remember things being so heavily full of oil and sugar like they've become now. So I think that's where the soul food story gets a little sad. We had meals together that were fresh and that weren't packaged most of the time. So I think one of the things that has happened is that we have started going outside of ourselves and outside of the community to get quick, fast, cheap food.
The most important thing is that people complicate their understanding of what soul food is, because it's easy to say that it's the bane of African American health. The bigger cause of the decline of African American health is the industrialization of our food system 4 or 5 decades ago. The goal of these corporations that are producing food is to make it cheap, to make it fast, to make it convenient.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, if you're on the run, when you buy chicken like this, why cook?
A lot of things happened between the 1960s and today to create the situation that we're in now, where people spend less time cooking and more time eating already prepared food and food that's fatty and salty and processed. And some of those changes we all know about. More sedentary lifestyles with television and computers, more women entering the workforce, which is a necessity, maybe always happened in the black community, but became more widespread.
I probably would have wanted to have canned food items and fast food because it just seemed like the evolution of being a modern American. When I think about the fact that 4 or 5 decades ago, this was being presented to the American public, it seemed modern. It made sense.
But what happened is if you eat it day after day, and for dinner, you may not be having something so healthy, then it really becomes a problem. And that's the point that we're at now.
The problem with talking about a connection between food and nutrition is that it's a long-term thing. So it's not the food you ate this morning or last week or even this year. It's the food you have been eating every day of your life for the past 10, 12, 20 years.
Along my journey, it was shocking to hear just how many people had a family member or loved one who was suffering from a preventable disease.
My mother had diabetes, so we sort of had a kinship in that.
I have high blood pressure.
I had 2 sisters that died with diabetes.
I had prostate cancer.
And then going into my aunts, we've got breast cancer all throughout there. I've had colon cancer as well.
Diabetes and high blood pressure and everything runs in my family. That was a wake-up call for me because my dad died at the age of 41.
It's almost like you eat, you get big, you go to college, you get your education, you get your diabetes, you get your high blood pressure, and you die.
Hearing all of these stories was sobering. I realized that as black people, we share common health issues that demand our immediate attention before it's too late.
You may know by now that I'm Jackie Hurd, the proud father of LeDrone, and a very happy, joyous father-in-law of our beautiful bride. When Byron was a little kid, I had him out there with me cutting the lawn, and he could barely walk, he couldn't even step off the curb. His legs were not long enough. I turned around and looked, and I don't know if he remembers this, he was backing off the curb to get down on the pavement. And I watched him, and he started running down the street. And I watched him, he ran halfway down the block. And I said to myself, that boy's going places.
I learned that my father was sick when my mother gave me a call to let me know that he was being taken to the hospital. The doctor noticed spots on his pancreas. And it sounded like it was serious. And so I asked her if she wanted me to come home and go to the hospital. And when she told me yes, that's when I knew that it was serious.
We knew that there was something wrong with him. We knew that he was going into the hospital for tests. We did not expect to hear that he had pancreatic cancer and that the prognosis was 3 to 6 months. It was devastating.
When the doctor said that, I almost fainted. I had known someone who lost their mother within a matter of months with pancreatic cancer. And so, I was in fear from the moment the doctor gave us the diagnosis.
We didn't realize the impact of what we were in store for. To see him go from strong to weak to barely functioning, words can't describe how that makes, a person feel that that's about to experience losing a family member.
Just standing here on this boardwalk before you hit the beach again, it makes me feel like I've reconnected with something very special when I come back here every single time. And I always have to come up here and say hello to the beach when we get here, and goodbye to the beach when it's time to go.
Initially, when Daddy got sick, I thought that his illness was related to soul food, you know, and his inability to want to give up eating certain kinds of foods. I remember I came home and I did a search for pancreatic cancer. I started to read about what were some possible factors in developing pancreatic cancer.
Healthy cells grow in a controlled way.
Cancer divides and can spread to other parts of the body.
People who drink on average about 5 sodas a week,
consuming high amounts of animal saturated fats,
cigarette smoke, the muscle proteins in beef, pork, even chicken can generate a cancer-causing reaction when they meet a hot grill.
Processed meats contained preservatives such as nitrates.
Pancreatic cancer is the 4th leading cause of cancer death in the U.S.
I realized that unhealthy soul food was just one reason, not the reason why my father got sick. I think I needed something to blame, and all the rhetoric I had heard about soul food being unhealthy made it an easy target. But my sister was right. It was far too simple to blame soul food for our father's death. My pops also ate lots of fast food that could be found everywhere in the black community. And when you have a diet that consists of unhealthy soul food and highly processed foods, the combination could be deadly. My journey led me to an even larger problem.
One of the things that causes black people to have the relationship to soul food and some of the unhealthy eating habits that we have is what we call a food desert.
When I walk around the city of Newark, where I work, it's very challenging to find healthy food. A lot of cities around the country, like Brooklyn, Harlem, Detroit, Chicago, Oakland, California, that just don't have a whole lot of quality supermarkets. Most people go to bodegas or corner stores, or in some places they even go to liquor stores to get their vegetables. People just don't have access to healthy, quality, fresh produce and quality food, and it's something that has become normal to us.
There are 23.5 million Americans, including 6.5 million children, who live in food deserts.
The reality is that in America, there is a class-based apartheid in the food system. If you live in a middle class or an affluent neighborhood, then you have an overabundance of good food. You know, farmers markets, health food stores, conventional supermarkets. But if you live in low-income communities, there's often very little healthy food.
In New York City, for every 10,000 people in Bed-Stuy, there's only one supermarket as compared to the Upper East Side where there's higher income, people will make more money. There are 3 supermarkets for every 10,000 people. So there's somewhat of a disparity there.
I go in this supermarket in my neighborhood. I see vegetables that look like they're having a nervous breakdown. They're so shriveled, and they're asking people the regular price for it. So I go and put the fruit and the vegetables in a cart, push the bell, and tell them, how dare you do this? How dare you put this out in this community, you know? And they said, lady, I'm going to call the police. I said, good. I'm going to call reporters. And they improved on the food, too.
There's no better example of racism in the 21st century than the relationship of black people and access to healthy foods. You know, people think about racism as an individual act of prejudice or discrimination from one person to another. That's not what it's about. It's about systems, it's about structures, it's about institutions. And the fact that black people live in neighborhoods where they can't get access to healthy food choices and white people can get healthy food choices, that is classic textbook racism. When you want to wipe out an entire generation of people, when you want to engage in the kind of 21st century genocide, all you have to do is continue to do what we're doing, which is deprive people of access to healthy food.
African Americans have been green. We've been eating close to the land. We've been thinking about ways that we could be eco-sustainable. We just didn't call it that. You know, it's just the way that people had to live out of necessity. If anything, we need to be talking to the elders, the aunties and the grandmothers and the great-grandmothers, and finding out what were they doing? How were they practicing sustainability with very few resources, a lot of people?
I went to go see my Uncle Tony, my pop's youngest brother.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, good.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Uncle Tony. What's happening?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
He grows his own garden in Milledgeville, so I decided to go check it out.
Yeah, this is my little garden, my little getaway here. It's something I do every year during the spring of the year. Yeah, right here we have cayenne peppers, and I only could find one plant of those.
And right here I had some banana peppers.
Why do you think it's important to be able to live off the land like this?
It's good because you know what went in the